Hi there, how are you? Pastor Sylvio here. How you doing? How was your week? It's pretty good? Yeah, pretty good? Not so good? It's okay. Know that God is in control and everything is gonna be okay. So, let me ask you something. Did you ever read that story about Aladdin and the magic lamp? Or maybe you watched that old TV series where this military man, he had a genie in the bottle. I can't remember the name of the series, at least not in English, but you remember those, right? So did you ever wish when you were children that you also had a genie in a bottle, or I don't know, some sort of lamp that you could get your 3 wishes out of it? And I believe you did. If you are like me, I believe you did that. And I believe you went through the thought process, even as a child or maybe as an adult, what would you ask for? And let me ask you that. What would you ask for? Would you ask for, I don't know, maybe $1 million, $1 billion, maybe about some fancy cars, maybe about, I don't know. What would you ask? You know, you could ask anything. What would you ask? Now, there's a story in the Bible. You can find that story in the book of 1 Kings. One night, Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel, God came to him in one night. He was in this little town called Gideon. It was north of Jerusalem. And one night, God came to him and said, Solomon, ask me anything. Ask me anything you want. So, can you imagine that? Can you imagine God's self coming to you and asking you, hey, what do you want? I'll give you anything you want. What do you want? What would you ask God for it? Do you have an answer for that? Would you like to know what Solomon answered to God? Well, why don't you stick around, and I'll be back in just a few seconds to tell you that story. I see you in a bit. Hi there, welcome back. It's good to see you again. So, out of everything and anything that Solomon could have asked God for it, guess what he asked God for it? Now, you can find out the answer if you go to 1 Kings chapters 3 and read from verses 1 through 14. And I hope you can do that during the week, but just to kill the suspense and tell you right away, I'll give you the answer now, but I still wanted to read it though. You have to do your little Bible reading every week. So if you're not doing your devotionals, please read this passage. Anyways, out of everything that Solomon could have asked God for it, he asked God for for wisdom. For wisdom. Can you believe it? See, the thing is, Solomon, his father David was a great king to Israel. And now Solomon knew he would be the one leading God's people on earth. So that was a big responsibility, and that's why he asked God for wisdom. Wisdom, what sort of wisdom? Wisdom to lead his people. Wisdom to lead God's people on earth. So isn't that cool? Very humbling. I don't need to say that God was very pleased with Solomon. Well, to be honest with you, The words in the Bible is that God was delighted. God was delighted with Solomon. And of course, he granted Solomon his wish to become wiser. So Solomon became this wise man. And wise man, not in a sense that New Jersey gangster or anything like that. Really wise. And to the point that he wrote a little book, a book called Proverbs. Proverbs, if you don't know, means to be like. So he wrote this little book called To Be Like, and he left in the Bible for us. You know, he left some of this, the things that to him was wise, things that to him was important. And you may not know that, but he left this book so we can benefit from all his wisdom, all the things he left for us. Now, the thing about Proverbs, it's a short book. It's in our Bible. I would encourage you, if you never read it, to read it. There's lots of good stuff there. And I'm going to show you some of my favorite Proverbs in this coming weeks. Nonetheless, Proverbs, what I like most about Proverbs is, well, let me first define what a proverb is, okay? So a proverb, it's a short saying that speaks a general truth. But what I like about Proverbs is that not only is a short saying that speaks a general truth, but to me, it's also it has a practical connotation, it has a practical purpose that we actually can apply in our lives. And I believe that by doing so, by applying this sort of wisdom in our life, we ourselves can become every day more godly-like. So if you wanted to be like Solomon, if you wanted to be more godly-like, I encourage you to pay attention in today's message because it talks about wisdom. So I know what you're thinking. You're kind of baffled, right? It was like, wow, Pastor Sylvio, that's amazing. Out of anything that Solomon could have asked God, he asked for wisdom. Wow, good for him. Yes, good for him. But listen, wisdom is very important for us too. Now, a lot of people don't know the difference between wisdom and knowledge. So, if I may, let me explain to you what the difference is. So, what is knowledge? Knowledge, it's to know. Wow. See? So smart. Knowledge. Actually, let me give you a practical example, and then you will understand what I mean by that. So you have knowledge and you have wisdom. So let's say that from today until the end of February, I decide that every day I'm going to leave the church during lunchtime, and I'll go to McDonald's, and I will order myself a Big Mac with large fries and a large Coke, and also I'm going to order myself a couple apple pies, and coming dinner I'm going to be doing the same thing, and coming breakfast I will order not a Big Mac but a couple McMuffins maybe. So, and I do that every day till the end of September. Now, you know what's going to happen to me, right? I'm a little chubby right now, so I'm going to become chubbier. And that's not good. That's not good. Why? But how do I know? How do I know that I'm going to be getting bigger? Well, I have this knowledge. I know if I overeat. I know if I put too many bad calories in my body. I know if I do not eat health, I will get bigger, fattier. Ooh. So, and nobody wants that. Neither do I. The reason I'm saying that is that I have the knowledge to know that if I eat McDonald's every day for an entire month, my health, it's gonna go down. We all know that. So that's knowledge. That's knowledge right there. What is wisdom then? Well, wisdom is that when you know that something is not good for you, you don't do it. Just like that. You don't put those things in your body. Do you see? Knowledge, to know, it's to know. But wisdom, it actually takes some sort of action from you. I'll give you another example just for you to be 100% sure you understood. Think about tomatoes, for example. I don't know if you know that. It's an interesting fact, but like a strawberry or blueberry, a tomato is actually considered a fruit. Oh, hold on. It's berry fruits? I don't know. Well, I guess they are, right? Like an apple. An apple, I'm sure it's a fruit. So a tomato, it's also considered to be a fruit. So you know that apple and tomatoes are fruits, although you be a wise person if you do not put tomato in your fruit salad, because it's not going to taste good. See, now you know the difference between what is knowledge and what is wisdom. So let's see what Solomon has to say about wisdom. Let's look into some Proverbs and see what he thought about it. I'll be reading Proverbs 4, verse 7, and I'll be reading from the New Century Version right now. It says, "Wisdom is the most important thing. So get wisdom. If it costs everything you have, get understanding." So for Solomon, there's nothing more precious. There's nothing more important. Wisdom to him is the most important thing you can have. And keep in mind that Solomon was a very rich king. He had plenty of wives. He had plenty of non-wives that he had relations with in a time that was allowed. He had a lot of money. He had the nicest car a person could have, at the time, chariots. I mean, the guy had everything, and he's coming from a standing point that, I know what it is to have an easy life, because my life, it's pretty easy. I'm very rich too, but wisdom is the most important thing. So this is my advice to you. Get wisdom. Get wisdom. It's the most important thing. Understanding, that means wisdom again, is the most important thing you can have. So do anything you can to get some wisdom. Now, of course, wisdom can be very costly. You know how much a degree costs these days, don't you? Some of us are still paying our tuitions or our student loans. So we know that at least to get knowledge is very expensive. So wisdom imply in you using that knowledge that you gained towards your benefit or the benefit of others, or for godly living like we are discussing here. Let's see at another verse that Solomon said, but before we do that, this needs to be understood, that for Solomon, one of the most important things we could do is to get wisdom, and it doesn't matter the cost. We should invest on it. So let's look at another proverb. This one is Proverbs 19, verse 8. And I'll be reading to you from the Passion Translation. The Passion Translation. Proverbs 19, 8. Now it says, "Do yourself a favor and love wisdom. Learn all you can. Then watch your life flourish and prosper." Yes, if we do strive to become wiser, we are doing ourselves what? According to Solomon, a favor. And, of course, I do not need to tell you that wiser you become, most likely your life will indeed flourish and prosper. Most likely your life will be a better life. More wise and more godly you become, better for you. You're doing yourself a favor. So, get wisdom. Let's look now at another proverb, also from Solomon, of course. It is Proverbs 4, and I'll be reading to you verses 5 through 6, and this is also from the Passion Translation. So it says, "So make wisdom your quest. Search for the revelation of life's meaning. Don't let what I say go in one ear and out the other. Stick with wisdom, and she will stick to you, protecting you throughout your days. She will rescue all those who passionately listen to her voice. Yes, this is a fascinating proverb. I love that says, make wisdom your quest. That means to get wisdom your mission. And also, look for the meaning of life. Look for the meaning of life. Don't let what I'm saying to you, says Solomon, enter one ear and get out in the other ear. No, don't do that. Make it your mission. Find the meaning in your life. And if you do that, if you stick with wisdom, if you stick with becoming a wiser person every day more and more, guess what's going to happen? Wisdom will become this sort of person, this lady that's going to come and rescue you. Even when you are in trouble, wisdom will be there to take you out of any sort of problems you're facing. Isn't that fascinating? Basically, he's telling you, listen, if you're becoming wiser every day, even when time comes that you're facing some issues, that you're facing some troubles, because because you're sticking with wisdom, she will be faithful to you back. I mean, wisdom is not going to let you go, and wisdom, it's going to help you to get out of trouble. That's nice, isn't it? Now let's look in our last proverb for today. And I'll be reading the very first proverb in the Bible. The very first proverb in the Bible. So when you open up your book of Proverbs, this is the proverb that we're going to be reading. Now, when you read, it may look a little bit different because I'll be reading from Eugene Peterson's The Message translation. So pay attention in what God has to say to you through this proverb. Let's read it. These are the wise sayings of Solomon, David's son, Israel's king, written down so we will know how to live well and right, to understand what life means and where it's going. This is a manual for living, for learning what's right and just and fair, to teach the inexperienced the ropes and give our young people a grasp on reality. There's something here also for the seasoned men and women, still a thing or two to the experienced to learn, fresh wisdom to probe and penetrate the rhymes and reasons of wise men and women. And then he finishes. Start with God. The first step in learning is bowing down to God. Only fools thumb their noses at such wisdom and learning. So my friends, tell me something. Do you want to be wise? Do you want to become a godly man or woman? Why don't we do what Solomon did? So like Solomon, when we pray, instead of asking God for all the things, to make our life easier, maybe we should be asking God to be a God-listening, a God-fearing, a God-liked heart, and learn from His Word. Many times, we ask God only for selfish things. We want to please our selfish heart. Solomon, he approached God with a heart saying, Lord, how can I serve you better by being a good king to your people here? See why God was delighted with him? Because he's not asking God for material things. Oh, Pastor Sylvio, easy for him. He had everything. No, listen. You today, you have more things than Solomon ever had back in the day. Trust me when I say that. You want to be a person that was born today and not someone that was born 3,000 years ago. You know, as much that he was a king, he has riches, you, my friend, you have a lot more. But my point to you, and to me too, is this one. We should all approach God, asking God how we can serve God better. That's why at the end of when I was reading to you, at the end in verse 7, he says, the first step is to bow down to God. That means you have to be humble. Do you see, Solomon approached God with this humble heart, with this heart that wanted at its core to serve God better. I guess we can learn from Solomon, from his wisdom here. Solomon, he approached God in a capacity that wants to serve God better, wants to serve Him. So that's why his desire was to serve God through serving His people on earth. That's why God was delighted to him, because Solomon's biggest request was, how can I, Solomon, serve you, my Lord? And if you can grant me some wisdom, because I know I'm going to be making some tough decisions. I know that sometimes the decisions is not going to be easier ones. But even so, if I have to wage war, if I have to decide if I should ask a soldier to cut a little baby in half, I don't think that he meant to do that anyways. But my point is, at the end of everything, he's asking God, Lord, how can I serve you better? And this is a message here for us today. As Solomon, we have to recognize that the beginning of wisdom begins when we don't find ourselves as being superior to God, that we bow down actually. That we take a stand saying, God, you are up there, you are on my side, you are here with me, you are there with my family, you are everywhere. You are a magnificent being, and I am nobody, I am nothing. Let me bow to you and recognize that you are my Lord. And then, that's when wisdom begins. And Solomon even says, it's foolish to think different from that. But why don't we too, with humble hearts, we also ask God to let us know in what capacity we can serve Him better. I'm calling you that is watching this video today. We have to find a ministry for you here at church. If you don't have one, if you do have one, please, by all means, serve. Do community service, help in the thrift stores or whatever you do. I don't know. But if you're not doing anything for God today, I urge you to come and talk to me. Say, Pastor Sil, I understood that if our church it's going to grow, if myself is going to become this godly man or woman, I also have to serve in some capacity, and I'm ready to ask God, how can I serve Him too? My friend, if you do that, I am sure God is going to be delighted to hear that from you. So why don't you? All right, that's my message for you today. God bless you. Have a good week. I miss you. Just one last point. So, session met last night, and we decided that we are not ready to go back quite yet. So, coming the second week of February, session will meet again. And then we're going to decide when we go back to church. Now, the good news is the numbers of patients with COVID, it's decreasing. So it was, I guess, it's around 600, which is a lot of people in need of your prayer. Your ministry can be a ministry of praying. I know I would appreciate people praying for us and for everybody else. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to do it. Just a suggestion. But anyways, we are not quite ready to go back to church, but we should be going back in February sometime, God willing. So my friend, God bless you. It's so good that you're here. Remember, if you can, if you're not watching this on TV, go to a computer later and make sure to subscribe to the church channel, and also make sure to like this video and feel free to share with your friends. God bless you. So good that you joined me this Sunday. Bye-bye.